Hey everybody, Ben here for the Bonehead podcast and welcome to Print to Pitch. This is our series where we have a look at everything 3D printed for Blood Bowl, and I am very excited for this one. It's been a while since we've had a look at some Brutefun sculpts. He has been squirreled away somewhere, making one of the coolest orc teams I have ever seen. Now, this is not just an orc team, this is also a goblin team and a couple of secret teams and a black orc team all in one, and this is part one of the Cretaceous Crumpers from Brutefun. Alright, so let's have a look at these bad boys. I couldn't resist going full jungle and setting up a little scene there, so I got to play with cameras, which is quite nice. It's been an alright afternoon. So we're going to have a look at the Cretaceous Crumpers. So this is Brutefun's part one of Brutefun's current project. So we're going to be looking at part one. Part two is coming out in March. And part three is coming out after that, and it works for a multitude of teams. Now, let's go to this picture here, and we can actually have a look at the team. So, Fantasy Football Orcs and Goblins team, part one is out now if you're a backer on his Patreon. And this is where the fun begins. All right, where are we going to start? So, I think we do a bit of background. This is a Savage Orc, Savage Goblin team that is also going to have the pieces to be a Black Orc team and a Secret League team, the Savage Goblins. Oh gosh, can't remember what they're called. Anyway, the Forest Goblin team from Secret League on Fumble. So he's already done the Squig team, which I think we all can agree is just chef's kiss. Now he's going after another Secret League team that also works well as Goblins. So this is part one, and you get a troll. Now, Brutefun is known for his trolls with good reason. Look at that chunky boy, and I tell you what, when it's printed it is just as cool. So I'm very I love this to absolute bits. Wicked troll number one. So in part one you get a troll and he's going after goblins straight off the bat. So we've got the troll in the middle there. Then as we kind of look around, we've got the dirty player here, which makes sense. He's got a big old skull over him. He's got some knives because he's wandered around doing dirty player things. We've got the bomber. Now, this is a forest goblin vibe. And the forest goblins in old school Warhammer Fantasy, they were the spider riders. They were all about being in the jungle, being in the forests, and having spiders and things, which is cool. Now, obviously, I'm not the biggest fan of spiders, but he's done this in a very, very cool way, where I've got to say that the spider hopper man, kind of cute. I'm impressed. So we have got a dirty player. We've got the bomber with spider legs backing him up and a big old web bomb on the top. We have got one of my favorite fanatics. Now, I know you're going to say this looks very similar to the Underworld's guy, and it does, but with such a cool forest goblin vibe. Okay, we've got a big old skull, we've got the spikes, we've got vines being used as the fanatic kind of chain, because this is the ball and chain player, and he is drinking toxic stuff out of a frog. Awesome. And we got the jungle troll, the first of the jungle trolls. And now Brutefun has done a couple of trolls before, and I think he's done a troll with these tusks, this kind of style before. I could be wrong, I could just be that it's this troll. But I don't care. This is wicked. You've got the big old punching fist. You've got these really cool tusks. It's just an excellent, excellent looking troll. He's got a crocodile skull on his shoulder. So we've got troll, dirty player. We've got a bomber. We've got a fanatic. And then we come to the chainsaw. So the chainsaw here is, this is a Brutefun special. In the Squig team, he's got a chainsaw being represented by a goblin holding a squig. The squig is running off, doing the chomping. That is the chainsaw. So the squig is the chainsaw, and it's a wicked, wicked way to present this. Right, now we've got the Doom Diver as well. I think he did a vote on the Patreon, his Patreon for this, to decide whether it was going to be a squig skin or something else. And I think, I'm not actually sure what the outcome was. Is it squig skin? Looks like it might be squig skin, actually. That's quite cool. Anyway, he's done a really good job with that. He's got like the wings and he's doing the flying. Somebody else is doing the flying is the pogo. And even though the troll is an absolute monster, This sculpt is my favorite of this release. Like the spider has got so much character, and it also just plays into the fact that Brutefun has thought about this so well. This is such a key positional for the Fumble Secret League, right? You've got these spiders, you've got spider riders. You need some good spiders, and he's done a superb job starting it off. You've got the spider, he's doing the jump in, he's got some spikes on his legs. It's just very, very, very cool. So as far as the goblins go, for the goblin team, you've got all the positionals. You've got the dirty player, you've got the secret weapons, you've got the pogo, and you've got the doom diver. And he's fleshed it out with a few forest goblins as well. So you've got this little lad in the corner pulling the scary face. You've got this one here, which I think is similar to his last designs. That's why. And then you've got another goblin here with some cool bones, and you've got this guy here who's doing the classic goblin one-handed running pose. So those of you there are probably thinking, I feel like Brutefun's done a Savage Orc team before. And he has. He has done a Savage Orc team before. And some of these bits you'll see will be familiar. So that goblin with the face mask feels familiar to his last release. But he is just reimagining it. And it's really quite interesting. I was talking to him earlier, and he showed like the old design versus the new design. And this is a passion project where he's just taken all of the things that he's learned in sculpting over the last few years and just gone back and redone some elements of those previous teams. Now, I said this is going to be a multi-part release. Part 1 is this element of the Goblin team. Part 2 is going to have the second troll that you need for the Goblin team, and he's going to be adding some goblins, and that's when you're going to see some orc pieces drop as well, because the clever thing about this is he's going goblins, and part 2 is going to flesh out the goblin team and allow you to basically play the entire secret league team, and it's also going to start brewing up the orc element, and then part 3 is going to finish off the orcs and give you enough orcs to play black orcs, savage orcs, i.e. you can run the savage orc roster, you can run the corn roster using savage orcs. He's going to drop a couple of squigs, I think, at some point as well, so you can kind of use it for a Norse roster as well. He's just gone to town, and we do have one of the Savage Orcs as well, which is very cool. So we've kind of had a look at the renders of the models, and we'll have a quick look at the STLs before we look at the prints. Okay, let's have a quick look at the STLs. Now, all of these STLs, go away, Ben's face. There we go. All these STLs do come with supported versions and unsupported versions, and we are just going to have a quick look at some of these. Let's zoom in. So this is the Goblin Bomber. Now, the reason we're looking at the STLs is because the renders only show you the front, and I want to show you some of the details behind these models. So the first one we're going to look at is the bomber, and you can see he's carrying around the corpse, essentially. It may not be a corpse, maybe a living spider. Ooh, that's it. It's the mouth bit that creeps me out, actually. There you go, lessons learned. Ooh, yeah, the mandibles. Ooh, don't like that, but great sculpt anyway. So he's throwing web balls as the bombs, and he's got little spiders running around it as well. Yeah. I like the sculpt. It is beautifully well done, but it's getting a little spidery. But I wanted to show off the actual all the way around this model, because you can see how much it's just a really clever way of representing it. Oh, the spider's lost a little bit of his leg. All right, let's chuck it all in here so we can have a look at all of the STLs and pick out any other bits that we haven't been able to show, and then we'll look at the models properly. There we go, boom. Right, here's all the STLs so we can have a look at some of the pieces that we couldn't see on the renders. Now, these guys are the Savage Orc variety, so they are they're significantly less clothed than normal, which is quite entertaining. Right, so we can get a little bit of flyby of the flyboy here as we kind of zoom around. So you can see he's got a little spiked hat. It is a squig skin. You can see the squig face there over the top. Really decent mounting points for all of these. In fact, as we swoop around, you'll see the spider with some decent spider details underneath, but actually kind of at least 3 points. And I think I know what Brutefun's done here. So he's added a couple of like splints to the spider to represent that he's got stabby weapons on there. But I think that's just a sneaky sculptor way of making sure the piece that's glued to the base is actually thick enough so that the base isn't just going to snap off the bit from the model. So we've got the spider boy. You can see there tons of detail as we swoop around. He's got the kind of the feathers and leaves that kind of goes with the tribal motif. The giant troll compared to the goblins is a very, very, very cool piece and a very cool beast as well. We've got the fanatic here. Let's spin him around and we can kind of have a proper look the underside of the model, and just, this is such a well executed team. Right, I absolutely love this guy. I know the Spider-Man is my favorite, but this guy here, just having that massive skull as well, and there's a little spider on there. These are absolutely a treat. There's tons of details. And actually the pre-support, I supported my own because I got them early from Brutefun. Thank you very much, dude. So I'm glad they come pre-supported, but actually I had no difficulties just using auto supports. So one thing Brutefun has learned, how's my teeth come off? Well, teeth are really good. So one thing Brutefun's learned is actually to sculpt in such a way that the prints work really well. And that's something you see from some of the best sculptors out there. So it's something that One Page Rules really focus on, is making sure that the models print really well. They're not just great renders, they're great prints. And Brutefun has done that. You can see it with the detail of added spikes to the leg so that it's extra strength. Really, really, really cool. All right, so all of these guys do come pre-supported, which is excellent and very, very useful. I've had no problems with Brutefun's pre-supports. I haven't tried these ones, but I mean, all I did for the models, and you're going to see there's a couple of things that I didn't follow up on that are not the best, but I'm talking like a couple of little plateaus and drops. I just, don't judge me, but I know Trips is sitting there, he's going to be sitting there twitching. I just used Chitty Box with light generated auto supports, and I went and added a few extra mediums so that the bigger models didn't come off. And they printed perfectly. All right, we're going to start off with the big boy here because this is such a fun sculpt. So like I said, I auto-supported this with Chitty Box, but Brutefun is providing pre-supported versions. So you can see there's a couple of little nubbins that are not perfect for me on my print, but even with auto-supports and very little effort, the print has come out really, really nicely. I think I had one plateau of a feather, but I mean, you're not even going to notice that. So if you're printing this yourself, just be careful. If you're picking it up from Etsy or something like that, then you'll be fine because they'll be using well-supported models. If not, ping them an email. Right, so we have got the Jungle Troll here, and we've seen... Yeah, you know what? I don't know if I need to say much about this. This is the really challenging thing about some of these print to pictures that we've been doing recently. It's just like, I've got nothing bad to say, which makes it quite boring. So it's really just me looking at models I love. I don't know if that's a good thing. Maybe it is. Right, he's got a leg, which is being used as a model. You've got all these little skulls. You've got a ton of detail. You've got some nice fur. You've got some great scaling of the troll as well. He's got that fist full of pain. I gave these guys a quick spray of bone, and then I chucked on an airbrush of one of my favourite greens at the moment, which is Mantis Warrior Green, because it airbrushes on really nicely. And I just thought, you know, it might be a good way to show off the detail. So you've got a ton of detail. It's an imposing troll. It is not the biggest troll, but here's a Black Orc to do the scale comparison. I mean, we all know that troll is plenty big enough. I've chucked these on some 40mm 3D printed bases that I had lying around, and he sits very nicely in that zone. If you block him up against a Black Orc, he stays within that cylinder. Again, something that Brutefun's been working on really, really well recently. So very cool troll, plenty big enough. Don't actually need to scale him up. You know me, I like to scale stuff up, but it's just not necessary. All right, here we go. Here's my boy, the boingy Spider-Man. It's the two mandibles there. Oh, that's what creeps me out. That's fantastic. That is really fantastic. All right, cool. We got the spider bouncer here. So interesting, not necessarily a bad thing to say. What I said about the extra touch points, for gluing, I mean, you can already see that that is a very useful thing to be able to do. It's going to be much better off on his base. But if you're using a 3D printed base with some texture, okay, you're going to need to cover that up. You're going to need to put a little bit of effort into that. That is it. That is the only negative thing I have to say. You can spin him around. I mean, just, right, it's on a 32mm base. You've got the boing of him. You've got that. Anybody sitting there playing against it, this is one of the really important things when you're using like a team that is a third-party team or has got like a stylistic proxy to it, is you are going to need to be able to easily represent what these players are, easily figure out what these represent. And this guy being a pogo on a spider makes a load of sense, and it's a really good sculpt. And if we look at the scaling of this, we've got Black Orc Goblin, he's good to go. Black Orc Bruiser, he's good to go. This guy is clearly in the strength 2, strength 3 phase. That's the only downside of these models that you represent pogos that have an additional monster on them, is that they can look a bit bigger than strength 2. But when you're using this as a goblin team, there's only one pogo, right? So your opponent, it's not hard to fathom. The good thing is that he's of a big enough size so that if you use this as a secret team, it does represent, I think the Spider Rider's a strength 3 because I think they're more about the spider than the rider. But this is a very cool pogo, and I'm already trying to think how we get this onto the channel because it's a very cool team. Right, that's the Spider Rider slash pogo. Here we go, we've got the Dirty Player Man with his gigantic skull, squig skull as well. He's got his 2 little poingy bits there so that you can run around and dirty player things. And again, just a very cool sculpt. We are absolutely blessed at the moment. Right, here's a strength 2 guy. Size-wise is good. I mean, Brutefun nails the greenskins. Absolutely gets it bang on the money. And we are really seeing some good fun stuff here. And look at this. If this was a plastic kit, this would be in 6 or 7 pieces. Like, the fact that this is a one print, easy, automatic supports, which means that the pre-supported versions will be better. This is just insane. Oh, have I got a little bit of a failure on the underside of his chin? Yeah, I have. There you go. Chitty Box Auto Sports, maybe not all of that, but geez, I super don't care because you're going to get pre-supported versions anyway. Right, now we've got the Fanatic, and this is really sweet. So as you look over the top, he's done a good job of sculpting him so that he stays almost within his base, and with a 32mm base, that gives us plenty of space there to do to kind of represent the fact that he is a flying around guy. And that's the really cool thing when it comes to the ball and chains, is they tend to be quite wide on the bases because they're representing swinging around a big ball and chain. Having him in this pose keeps him kind of just more siloed, which makes it infinitely more playable. But you can see you've got tons of detail, great expression in the goblin face, big old skull. Like, you can have a nice assortment of textures to paint. You've got vines, you've got hair, you've got skin, you've got fur, you've got bone, you've got wood. It's going to be a really cool mixture of colors and textures there in a model that is just a one-piece wonder. Right, next up we've got Mr. Spider Bomber with his spider bombs, and that is a very well done model. And again, excellent goblin facial features there. Kind of cool. They've gone with like the feathers and like the tribal bracelets and things with like teeth and things. It's just really, really, really well done. It definitely comes across as a savage goblin team, as a forest goblin team or savage orc team. Look at that. It's just so good. All right, Bomber's good. And these goblins are all the same scale, so you just know that they are going to be good to go. So if you're looking for a goblin team that's something a bit different, I mean, this makes me want to play goblins because you've got that wonderful moment of every single one of these guys has got character. And you know what we're like when we do our leagues. The guys who have character, they build up names and then they build up more character. So this is your chainsaw with the chomping squig. He's pulling him back. He's got feathers on him as well. And again, just like, this is a fun one. I like this one. Like, you've got the squig. You can paint the squig up slightly different. And then you've got it's kind of like a 2-for-1 with that guy. Because you've got like the character of the goblin and you've got the actual, who's the star? Is it the squig? Is it the goblin? It's a cool thing to do. Right, here we've got the squig skin Doom Diver, where you've got the little squig face on top. So it looks like, I don't know, it looks like a little stingray. He's swooping around. You've got a really, really solid mounting point. Good bit of flex there on this. I'm using Elegoo standard resin, so nothing really fancy. Loads of detail on the top and loads of detail on the bottom. The fact that you've got some plain skin here means you can get some numbers on there, you get some logos on there, and that's something that I think Milton pointed out when he was talking about some of the teams he's been painting recently. He's kind of like, the big flat areas can be really useful for Blood Bowl because otherwise you don't get a ton of space to put on decals or anything, or team colours and stuff like that. So this being a big old swoopy lad, really, really, really cool. Nothing too extravagant, nothing too up in the sky. Now, when it comes to the standard line goblins, I think I don't know, I think I didn't have enough bases, so I only did a couple, and I kind of went for 2 of the classic poses. So this is a really sweet little goblin. He's got all the jungle bits on him. He's got like a skull mask. He's got the feathers there to pull it off. He looks like, again, you kind of got a cool, it looks like an Amazon goblin. Like, this is why I think I'm getting such jungle vibes, is because it does smack of the Amazon vibe that Games Workshop have gone for. The kind of classic jungle aesthetic. Bones strapped, bone mask, 3-point stance. Fantastic. Let's bring up the scale test. Again, perfect. Over the top. size 2 is exactly what you expect. And this guy, who is your fastest goblin, and this is just, it's a classic goblin pose, and I love that Brutefun keeps using this. I think we've got a couple of Bruties goblins that have this kind of standard pose now, but it's always done slightly differently. So here he's got a Black Orc helmet, and I think this is one of those artist things where he's representing that his orc sculpting has just gone miles above his first orc team, which was a very good team. I don't know, he's just shooting for a full-on orc league, isn't he? Right, you've got that cool parrot mask, which works really well. So he's like a fast goblin. You've got the furious one, you've got the fast goblin. It's just so well done. But we've got one savage orc to show you, just because he's leveling up, and this is going to be a full-on savage orc team. And this is a chonker of a boy. Now, I don't know if this is coming with section 1 of the team or whether this is just a little sneak preview at where this is heading, but 100% scale. Let's bring up the Black Orc to the Black Orc. I say it's a Black Orc. It's just a kind of an orc big un, potentially. But look at the level of detail. Like this, these are all so interesting sculpts. You've got quite a lot of detail, but also quite a lot of plain textures. So the fact that this guy's got like this mini T-Rex bone structure over his shoulder is just phenomenal. All right, so I think it's very plain to say that I have very much enjoyed this team. I mean, I don't always prime the teams, and I don't always add a bit of color, and I wanted to do it for this team because I just wanted to show off the details as much as possible. There's a load of cool stuff there, and the problem is when you get your team a little bit of color, just a little bit of color, it starts really singing to you. So I think I'm going to struggle to not paint this team at some point. Where am I? I'm in February. Have I painted stuff? I've painted stuff. I'm going to hit my 1,000 points for this month anyway. But as this team grows, you will definitely see it on the channel. Definitely. So that is part 1 of the Brutefun Savage Orc redo. What are they called? The Cretaceous Crumpers, part 1. So I'm a huge fan. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy printing.